Okay, guys, I put in the group. Have you got anything that you want to discuss in terms of scientific topics? Anything you want to understand, know more about? Noah gave a good question, as he usually does, and it was on where do I get my training theory from? Is it based on one system? Is it based on one person, or is there several? I thought that was a good question. So I guess starting from when I first got into the sport, that's when I was obviously started learning. I started to look at what the best in the world were doing at the time and trying to integrate that into what I could physically do at the time. And that was when I was about 10. Then I joined the club, so we started to pick things up from coaches there and other people, quite a traditional setting. Then I guess most of the, obviously what I've learned has come when I started the club, when I was 18, 19, but I went to university, so I did a degree in exercise science, I got a first. Obviously I based a lot of the studies I did in dissertations on running when I could, and to be honest, most of it was on running. So I spent a lot of time researching stuff there and kind of understanding what I was doing already at the time and doing okay, and why I was doing it. Because I think this is a big theme in running, is that a lot of the scientists prove what the coaches have done right. That tends to be the direction of things work. The case studies, so like scientists prove why what someone was doing for 10 years got them a world record and all that stuff. Obviously, there's scientific principles out there that we know are true, and that all coaches need to learn and know about. But obviously, it's a very complicated field because there's not one system for everyone. Because then we would all train the same, and it wouldn't really be that much. There wouldn't be that much differentiation between everyone. But yeah, so where do I get my information? I guess now, as I'm a bit more evolved and been a runner for 15 years, I've been a coach for 6 years of that. I guess give my arm a rest. I haven't set this up very good. So where do I get most of it from? So I read about 10 to 15 research articles a week on exercise physiology, anatomy, psychology, biomechanics, things like that. I probably watch about 10 YouTube videos a week with current elite athletes or just running science or things like that, I probably read like 10 to 15 sort of training articles a week based on how some teams in the world are training or how individuals are training. So that's every week, and I'm always progressing that. And I take notes and I record things, and I kind of try to match it up with what we're doing here. So obviously I should get weekly feedback from every athlete in the club, and then that kind of grows a big portfolio of information. And you get 52 weeks that year after year, you start to build, right, themes here. So I definitely learned more from physically coaching people than out of any textbook, video, podcast out there, university degree or whatever, because you learn through doing. And obviously on myself as well. Most of the things I give you, I've tested on myself maybe 6 months, 12 months ago. And if it hasn't worked, I won't put it on you. I'm always a guinea pig. And some of you guys are guinea pigs as well. But yeah, so we're always testing. But the one thing you got to realize is that everyone's unique and everyone reacts completely different. That's if everyone's doing the work, and that's if everyone does all the work in the right order at the right time for long enough. And it's very, very hard to get people to do the right work, every day in, day out, for a long enough period of time to assess if that was successful or not. It's probably coached 5% of people like that. So that's a very small number in the grand scheme of things. But then those people drive the innovation forward on training theory. But yeah, I'll put some other things down. I guess the big thing is looking at what the best in the world do. So I've looked at the last 150 years, I would say, everything from Zatopek to Steve Prefontaine, Steve Jones, Frank Shorter, coaches like Jack Daniels, Igloy, Bowerman, Salazar, even Salazar with the Oregon Project. But yeah, Bill Squires, the list goes on and on and on. Obviously, I don't think there's a runner I haven't looked at or a successful coach that has achieved something with one athlete or a team of athletes that I haven't analysed. And of course, they're all different. For example, Patrick Sang, who coaches Kipchoge, it has a completely different model to Renato Canova, who coaches other Ethiopian and Kenyan athletes. So there's not one way. There's not one way. What I'm a big believer in is it's the feedback loop between what someone's doing, how is it evolving, and then how can you change it moving forward. So that ultimately comes down to trial and error. But yeah, how do you always know what to give in every scenario? I guess the how I write a plan is seeing what the athlete has currently done. How have they responded to that work that they've currently done? Have they followed through on the work to the best of their ability, or have they cut corners? If they cut corners, carry on, and try not to look into the feedback so much. Carry on with what they're doing, and then when they do it right, maybe then you can draw conclusions. If they have done it well, they have applied themselves, and it hasn't worked, then you've got to change the system, and you've got to look at what the problems are and try and bring in a solution. Most of coaching is providing solutions to problems. And like in my own running as well. I mean, if everyone knew everything and it was so easy, like every block would be successful. And I tend to have a good block and then a bit of an average block and then a good block and then maybe a great block, but then an average block or a poor block. And that's just how it works, you know. And it's very hard to get someone to follow through on periodization to a high level. So to get someone to stick to a 6-month periodized training plan, I would say I've done that with maybe 3 to 5 people ever. It's incredibly difficult because you can't get them to do everything that you need to do. So there comes a time when you have to give someone a kind of a training session that is better than nothing, because they wouldn't do the session that they really need to do, would benefit them because they're not motivated or the environment isn't right enough for them to do it. So that's another ball game, which makes it very complex and frustrating as a coach, because you know the athlete has more potential on a current system, but they wouldn't do it for various reasons. So then you have to kind of dumb it down a bit, but then it's better than nothing. So sometimes there's a lot of that stuff going on. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy coaching people that are engaged and want to learn, and then you can really, that accelerates the process so much more than anything. So having 100% buy-in makes it a completely different ball game. And I would actually say that having someone who is motivated and has 100% buy-in, even if it's not scientifically correct, will produce way better results than someone who has 50% buy-in on the most scientifically correct system out there. And that's why you tend to find that some people might work better in a different club or a different setup, even if it's not as good, because they have more buy-in and they believe in it. Even if it's not very good, if they believe in it, they'll produce better results. A lot of success comes from emotion rather than physical. So it's a complex world, but you can never learn enough. And the more I learn, the more I realise I didn't know. As a 18-year-old coach coming into the sport, when I thought it was quite simple. But that's the beauty of it. So hopefully that answers your question, Noah. And it's not an easy answer, but I guess learning from the best who do it, best coaches, best athletes, maybe get to know some of them personally to get a little bit more information. See what the science says. So the actual, the scientific backing of it. Does it agree with what they're doing? Trying it on myself, and then trying it on you guys, sample size of over 100, to see if, does this system work? Does this one thing work? If it works, we'll keep it in the NEP system. If it doesn't, we'll take it out and see you later and try other things. So also always be trial and error, lots of different aspects as well. Always keep trial and error, because it's one big scientific experiment at the end of the day. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Noah. Keep learning.